Hello everybody, this is a video about LabTwo for our class, and in this lab what we're going to do is we're going to install two sets of services that are really important to keeping track of any application. One is the ability to generate traffic to test the way that our application responds to that traffic. And I've got a nice little tool out there, it's called Siege. You can install it with Yum, and so it's Yum install Siege, and there you go. And the other thing that we want to do is we want to set up system monitoring. System monitoring is really important because unless you can keep track of your system, you have no idea what's going on with it. Now we're going to be monitoring our monolithic application, and of course that's notoriously hard to do because you really don't know what's going on inside the application when you put a load on it. And I just want you to be able to see that. Now, so this is a little bit different in that, let me scroll down here a little bit. So here's a little architecture that I put together for you guys, and you can follow this if you so desire. But you don't have to. If you want to do it differently, that's okay. And what I did was on my Ansible server, I added the load generator. Okay, the monitoring server I set up as a separate standalone virtual machine. And then the other server that we have is our application server that's serving up Explore California. Okay, so the load generator is going to be pretty easy to work with, but the monitoring is a little bit different. You can choose whichever monitoring tools you want to install. If you want to use, Nagios is the classic old style way to do things, works great, doesn't scale well. You guys use Zabbix in another class, I believe. That one scales a little bit better, but still has its limitations. Whatever you want to do is fine by me. The key to monitoring, though, is not in the tools that you use. It's deciding what metrics you gather. Your machines can throw off gazillions of metrics every second, but the question is, what good are they? And unless they're useful and actionable, unless you can do something based on what the metrics tell you, there's no real point in collecting them. So what I've done is I've posted you a link to a presentation that was done by, what's his name, Michael, I've forgotten his last name. Anyhow, but he's from Google, and he just does a really nice overview of this is how we monitor at Google. And the things to take away from it are that they use a whole series of tools that work off each other, support each other, and at the end of their tool set is a visualization. And that visualization is important because you and I as humans can't scroll through a whole bunch of log files to see what's going on. We need a way for our machines to take all those log file entries and turn them into something visual so that we can get a grasp of what's going on with our entire environment in one picture. And then hopefully, based on what we see there, we can do something to make it better, make it perform better, whatever it is. And so that's what I want you to head toward. You're not going to get it right this time. That's okay. Do your best. Try and work on this. Now, so the load generator is kind of a single thing. You install it here. I've got it installed on the Ansible machine, and it's just going to do its thing, and it's going to push traffic at the application server. Okay, fine. Monitoring server is different in that it has two different components. It's got a server-side component that takes all the metrics coming in from the devices that are being monitored and then creates this visual display that we can do something based on. But the other side of it is a client side kind of thing. And that client side gets installed in all of the servers that it's monitoring so that they know how and where to throw the metrics that they're asked to do that to. Well, that's different. And that's more interesting, especially from an ops perspective, because what you'd want to do is to prepare to include this monitoring client-side component in all of the servers that you deploy throughout your entire architecture so that you can monitor them all, and you'd want to do it in the same way. So developing an Ansible script that's got this small little playlist or a role or whatever that installs the monitoring components in all of the servers that you deploy in the same way, that's a useful bit of time for you to do. Now, developing an Ansible script to install the load generator, maybe not. The reason you would use Ansible for that is that you would want to document through your Ansible playbooks exactly how you did it. Then it can be audited by your security group, and if you ever need to install it again, you know exactly how to do it so that you maintain a continuous way to generate load. Same thing on the monitoring server side. The reason to do it by an Ansible script would be that you wanted to make it auditable, and if and when, because this will happen, you have to install it again, you want to install it in the same way. So there's a bunch of different work on the ops side. That's all ops side stuff. The sec side, here you've got this new really cool set of tools, and that's your load generator and your monitoring software. So the question becomes, well, how much load do we need to send at this server to make sure that it behaves properly? Because availability is a security requirement, and so the sec team is interested in the way that our architecture supports the expected load that it's supposed to get. So where does the expected load come from? Well, in a company, it would be from your marketing department. They would say, this looks like an application that is medium popular, will be medium popular, will be super popular, will be whatever. And then they would give you an expected load because everybody knows that you need to have that. Well, I've given you a load here. And I said that this architecture should be able to support an expected load of 100 concurrent users. Okay, that's the expected load. But from a security perspective, you want to be ready not just for the expected load, but for really good days and really bad days. So, 100 concurrent users, that's just what you're going to get all the time. What happens when something big happens, maybe a marketing pitch or whatever, something out in the world happens, and you get a huge load that's way more than you expect? Well, what happens to the server? Does it fail and come up at a command prompt? Does it fail and just slow way down? What happens? That's a security requirement, and that's something that the sec team needs to test to make sure that that actually works. Okay, so I hope this gives you a little bit of overview what I'm talking about here. I've written a bunch of stuff about it, but the key idea is that the ops team needs to install the load generator and the monitoring server. Sec team needs to find uses for these great new capabilities that help you to better understand the ability of your architecture to support expected and other loads. That's it. I hope that helps. Stay in touch. If you have any questions, happy to chat. Take care. Bye-bye.